Hey, hi everyone, Michael Procaccini here at Art on Duval, Key West. Welcome to another segment of our production, Meet the Artist Key West. Today you're going to be meeting Jeanne Kidd, artist, sculptor, and we're going to learn a little bit about her life and what motivated her to create these incredible sculptures. We really hope you enjoyed today's production.
So hi, I'm Jeanne Kidd. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and I've just started showing my work internationally. So this is actually an opportunity for me to become public. So with my story, with why I love doing what I do, I've been a lover of art for as long as I can remember. The only place I felt safe as a child was in art class. And everybody has their life story. Mine was filled with some trauma as a child, and so the place where I was seen and noticed was by my art teacher. In second and third and fourth grade, my work started winning some awards, little papier-mâché pieces that got into a local library. Is probably one of my proudest moments. But it's also when I realized that I love three-dimensional, dealing with touch, dealing with sensation and emotion. My grandfather was a marble mason from the north of Italy. He came to America in the 1900s, probably 1900. And my grandmother also, they came from the same villages in Italy up in the marble near Carrara. And, so growing up, I always knew, I didn't know my grandfather. He died when my mother was very young, but we'd go to Vermont and we'd learn about stone. And so it was like a background conversation, but he was part of the design of the Empire State Building. He was part of the Yale University, the marble that was done there. And so when I did my first stone sculpture, and my grandmother saw it, of course, in her very Italian way, she was like, "Grandpa would be so proud," And she gave me one of his first sculpting tools, which I still have. So it was many years later when I thought I had a big health issue. And I turned to my husband, I said, if I'm facing a challenge where I have 4 to 5 years left on this planet, I have to retire and work in stone. And that was our dinner conversation. And so we rearranged our life. It took about a month and a half. We rearranged everything. We started building me a studio. And I had been to Italy the year before, because for my 50th birthday, I took my mother back to where her parents were born and introduced her to Italy, and she'd never left the country, and that was when I think it reawakened that I have to work in stone. Seeing the masters and being in that area. And she and I walked around Florence at midnight and we'd look at the sculptures, and I was like, okay, I have to get some stone in my hands. I ordered some alabaster. I had it in my garage for a year, and then my doctor called and said, "I think you're very sick." So I'm not, I'm actually healthy, but that was that life wake-up call where I was like, all these years I have said I'm a stone sculptor, but everything else got in the way. So I pulled out my chisels that I had from college. I started sculpting, and I knew I had to go to Italy. And I got a piece of marble. It was about that big. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I started working it. And the instructor didn't know how to teach me because I just started working directly in the stone from an image I'd gotten in my head. And it was, and this is what I say about my work. It usually comes from a vision, a dream, or a sensation or a story. So mostly my pieces have stories and storytelling. But the man who owned that studio, as soon as he saw me touch the marble, he came up to me, he said, "This is in your blood." So this piece is an alabaster. It's called The Heart of the Matter. And it came out of, I had gone to an art auction and I saw some famous artists that had done paintings of hearts. And to be totally truthful, they were these little splashes of hearts with splashes in their signature. And I thought it was silly, and I was like, this is not something I ever want to do. But once I got into the stone, I started falling absolutely in love with the form. It's organic, it's beautiful, and this particular stone, the colors and the veins actually ended up becoming very anatomical, even though it's not an anatomical heart. And I adore this piece. And this sculpture is about to be made in bronze 6 feet tall. So this design has now taken on a life of its own, and the design for me is all about healing. So this sculpture started out as a stone piece that to me was about expressing life energy, the sensation of ecstasy, an ecstatic dance. And I had this black stone and I was like working the stone and trying to get it to work. And that piece just came out really luscious and beautiful. And when someone saw it in Israel, he asked if I wanted to start making my work in bronze. So this piece is bronze, even though it looks like stone. I call it Shekinah, which is, it's the feminine aspect of God. It's life force, it's where creativity comes from. And I think that's what a lot of my work is about. There's the skill of the medium, but really for me it's trying to express something that's about expressing a story, a sensation, and a lot of it is around ecstasy and sensuality, and I think that's why people relate to my work, is it's not of anything, but it's all familiar. So there's a version of this sculpture that lives in Jerusalem permanently. It has a chocolate patina color, and it is called Eternal Flame. It was designed to honor Holocaust survivors. So this really has that life energy feel to it, and so we made it 4 feet tall. It is in bronze, and it lives in a garden of a retirement center it's 200 Holocaust survivors. Yeah, my connection to Israel, I call it my soul's home. I was there when I was 16. I lived there for 2 months on a program called High School in Israel, and within a week I transformed completely. As a 16-year-old, I experienced things and felt things I've never known. And I thought I was going to go move back there. And it wasn't until kind of the two awakenings happened at the same time. When I really decided to own myself as an artist, I decided to go back to Israel at the same time. So those two dovetailed, culminated, and that's where my work got noticed. So who discovered me was a man named Sam Philippe. He is an artist in Israel. He does monumental sculptures all over the country, and he's a friend of my brother-in-law. So we went for coffee, and he said, "I hear you're an artist." And I was just starting out. I was just starting to show people that I was working in stone. He said, "Let me see your work." And I showed him 3 photographs. And he said, "You're really talented. How would you like to show in Israel?" He said, "I can get you into Jerusalem." So my work currently is still being produced and created in Israel. I work with a foundry that's there. They do some of the most beautiful work in the world. They're masters of what they do. The quality of the bronze that comes out of Israel is very high quality compared to going cheaper other places. And that's where my relationship developed. So my molds are there for 5 of my bronze pieces. There are 2 more that are about to be produced, and they're gonna show in the Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem for the next 6 months. I have 2 monumental pieces. As I mentioned earlier, this one is 4 feet tall in Jerusalem. And in December, there's an installation going in 6 feet tall to honor the first responders and the medical teams of Israel. So I actually came to bronze by accident. I am a stone carver. I am passionate about working in stone. It is what makes my heart sing. When I touch a piece of stone, it is an incredibly sensual experience. So that's why I work in stone, and I love it. The man who saw my work in Israel said, "Let me introduce you to bronze. We'll take your designs and put them in bronze." And what I discovered, what I love about it, one is it's still a material that shows light and dark, and it's so permanent. And even though, and this is what I say about my work, even though it's hard and cold material, the work comes out looking soft and like you want to touch it. So when I started in alabaster. Alabaster is a soft, beautiful stone. It's very translucent and it responds to what you want to do pretty quickly, but it also scratches easier, can break off or things, it's delicate. Once I touched marble, and especially Italian marble the first time, I was hooked. A master in Italy that I met, and I asked him, I said, why is Italian marble so precious? And he said, in a very Italian, beautiful accent, he said, because it's true. And what I realized, it will do what you want it to do. So you end up in a relationship with the stone. If you want it to carve this way, you can trust it's going to hold up for you. And that's what I love about Italian marble. So the question that a lot of people ask me is, do I plan it out? Do I draw it? Do I design it? So what happens for me is I either get a dream, or there's a story I want to tell, which is about an emotional experience or a sensation. And I learned when I went to Italy a couple of years ago, one of the instructors I was trying to learn from, who could not help me, walked over to my piece after 2 days and went, whoa. He said, you are a direct carver. I didn't know what that meant. He said, like Michelangelo, you see something and you just work in the stone until you see it and you bring it out of the stone. And so that's how I work. I don't have a model. I have a line I want to do, or I'll be like, okay, I want this to feel like it's lifting up. And how do you make that sensation happen in the physical form? And that's my planning. Sometimes I'll draw a line, or sometimes I'll just go up to the stone and I'll like scratch a piece out. Or, oh, I want this to be wings. And so I kind of like put in wings and then I just start working. So this piece is called Guardian. And I have said before, my work resembles things that are familiar, but they're not of anything. So this piece actually came from a dream. I had a dream one night that was like this owl angel, and it was just when I started carving again. And so that was one of my very first. So as I was learning about bronze casting, I learned about patina. And patina you can do in all kinds of colors. You can make them look like paint. And it's a little controversial because I wanted my pieces to still look like stone. So even though they're bronze, a lot of people are surprised to find out they're bronze. And so I worked with the guy doing the patina to say, can we add texture and choose colors that were very similar to the stone I had worked in. So the difference between stone and bronze is, so the original of this is one of a kind. There'll not be another one of it because it's in stone. There is a mold for this, so I can cast as many as I choose, or as many we choose, but I've chosen as an artist to limit the addition to 9. So any of my designs, the molds are in Israel. They get poured in Israel. I work with the foundry there, create the patina, they ship it over here. So what's brought me here to this moment is Michael saw my work online through, I don't know if it was Instagram or Facebook. We have mutual artist friends. And we just started chatting, and he said, I like your work, and would you be interested in showing in the gallery? And the magnificent part of that was, I used to tell people, when I go to a gallery, it's going to be in a really important city. So I'm very picky. I'm picky about my work. I'm picky about the choices I make, and our relationship, my relationship with Michael, just was this instant connection and very trusting. And I looked at the gallery, and it looked so beautiful. So I'm like, yep. This is where I want my work to be seen and to get out into the world. So this piece is called The Heart of the Matter. It's a bronze version of a stone sculpture that I did. And it is also about to be installed 6 feet tall in the north of Israel to honor the first responders and their medical care in Israel. So one of the experiences I had when I first saw the bronze pieces is that I think for the first time I got to see my own art. Like I walked into a room when I saw the bronze, and I was like, oh, the lines on these are really beautiful. And so I thanked the man who's my mentor in Israel and said, you know, thank you for seeing me and my art and helping me see what other people are seeing. So that's what just happened when I looked at this piece and we put it up here. It's like, I love how the light reflects on it. So this I call Genesis, and it was originally done in a stone called Wonder Stone, which is very rare, hard to find, and it was magnificent to work in. It was so smooth and had these beautiful lines, and this one just came out of my imagination. I was mostly working with the stone and seeing what formed and what shapes, and this is an enlarged version of it in bronze. I call it Genesis because to me it's so primordial. It's like you have all the swirls and the ocean feel, and then from the back it looks kind of like a sea creature. But it also has a very earthy feel. So it's like the ocean and the earth and creation and life. So that's why I call it Genesis, because it's kind of like the beginning of life. So this is number 2 of the series of 9. The first edition did sell to a collector in London. It's in a garden in London. That piece was in Jerusalem for a year. And so that's where the number 1 is. So you're starting with number 2. When I sculpt and marble, it's a sexual experience. It's a sensation of sensuality and opening and expressing touch and connection and love, and it becomes a relationship.